The second category, like I said, is testing. Testing is something similar to grades that a lot of parents and students worry about. They stress themselves out. But yeah, let's talk about testing. Again, the top 1% rule applies to testing. And what that means is that to be competitive, you're going to have to score in the top percentile of either the SAT or the ACT. For the SAT, this means that you should probably be able to score above a 1510 out of 1600 on the SAT. For the ACT, that means you should be able to score a 34 and up out of 36. If you can do that, then you're competitive. So that's what we mean by top 1%. A lot of students try to take both the SAT and the ACT. And in my opinion, I think that's just unnecessary because colleges look at the SAT and ACT in terms of whether it's a signifier of your readiness for college. So it's not just because you're taking the SAT or because you're taking the ACT. It has a functional value. So if you want to take a standardized test, and I highly recommend you do, then choose one. Either take the SAT or take the ACT. I took the SAT, and that was the only test I took. The other thing I also want to add is that you should learn which test is right for you. So what I highly recommend for those of you who are in 10th grade or in 11th grade is that you should take a practice SAT and a practice ACT. Take both tests and look at the score you got on both tests. Look at how you felt when you took those tests and determine which test you think you have a higher potential of scoring on. So for me, I'll say I took the SAT, I took the ACT. I got similar scores in both, but I felt much better taking the SAT than taking the ACT. So I opted to take the SAT. And you can find a lot of articles that talk about the different attributes in students that these tests cater to. So for instance, the SAT gives you more time on the test, but it has harder questions in generally. It has more critical thinking questions. Whereas the ACT tends to have less time given to you and more questions. And then there's also, questions about whether you're a STEM person or whether you're a more humanities person. So looking into this, researching about the tests is key. And the final thing I'll talk about is that preparing for these tests is also important. Preparing for these tests. Some of us don't do our due diligence. And I think the key to being able to get a high score on the SAT is accustoming yourself to the test. Because the test has in itself a code, a formula. You can learn how to essentially hack the SAT. And because all the questions are structured in the same way, the test writers have rules and codes and formulas by which they manufacture these questions. So to accustom yourself, take as many practice tests as you can. Take as many as you can, and when they come back to you, when you grade them, look at the type of questions you got wrong. Because always there's a pattern. Like for instance, for me, I had a pattern of getting math word problems wrong. I just wasn't good at translating the English into the math. So what I did was I sat down and I hammered into myself how to learn to decipher the words in a math word problem and, translate it into the math, right, into the numbers. And so you might have a weakness maybe in reading comprehension, maybe in geometry. Whatever the case is, find that weakness, find the chink in your armor, and learn how to be able to overcome it. A big tip is use Khan Academy. Khan Academy has a lot of SAT problems, and they even give you the corrections. They show you how you can be able to get better at solving these problems. So that's also very helpful, and I think that was very helpful for me as well. When you get a score on the SAT or ACT that's in the top percentile, don't try and take it again. Like, to put myself as an example, I got a 1530 on the SAT. And I know students that got 1540s, 1550s, 1560s. But I did not opt to take the SAT a second time because I'd already reached the top percentile. I was already competitive. So rather than spend my time studying, trying to get maybe 20, 30, 40 extra points, I decided to spend my time working on the other categories, balancing myself out. So for those of you that got above a 1510 or maybe a 1520, I would say the average SAT score for Harvard admits is 1520. If you get above that, then you can stop. That's enough. You've triumphed over the second category.